what happens is it hits this bridge right here, and you can see it's just going up against it. But all it takes is just a little bit of energy and something blocking it. And if Greg, if we can get that horse trailer over there, that was mangled underneath the bridge. Earlier, that blocked this whole area. Water rose well above to where we are right now. Just 30 minutes ago, I could not stand where I am right now. It'd be up to my waist.
I can't talk specifics about language. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're asking for people to vote for you to lead the charge, to be the governor of the state. I feel like they should have a firm answer. A little over a year ago, the FAA mandated a change for hot air balloon pilots. They had to get medical clearance just like a commercial pilot. But when it comes to other safety measures, we learned that much of it is voluntary.
Look at the ground here. I mean, this is some pretty good sized hail. Levi and I, we were walking around out here, and it kind of, when it hit your hand, it'd sting just a little bit. Absolute pouring rain for the last 20 to 30 minutes. Take a look at, this is the 18th green we're at right here.
The plan originally was to keep it over here on this side of 77 and to use the highway as a buffer so it would stop expanding. The plan didn't work. It ended up jumping the highway here, and you can see this burn scar goes for miles and miles.
Look at this damage, and think about this. This church is not going to let this stop them. In fact, last week on Sunday morning, they had a pre-recorded sermon that still aired. And this week, one of the members of the church is inviting them into their home to pre-record a message there.
Now, one of the most challenging parts of lake patrol is just navigating this airboat, especially at the height of summer.
And it's so hard to visualize Amtrak routes and how that would affect you, so why not use my son's train set to help us out? This is what the route is right now. It goes from Los Angeles to Maricopa to Tucson. So if you're trying to go from Tucson to Phoenix, you can't. So what would happen here is they would use existing routes to allow commuters and travelers to now go from Tucson to Phoenix onward to Los Angeles.
I wanted to start here in Desiree's backyard because I think this really demonstrates just how messy all of this became as the tornado came through. This is their garage here. As you can see, not a lot left of the garage. The front of it's been ripped off. Actually, here's the door, the garage door right here, just sort of standing on top of itself right over here, been ripped together. They've started bunching up, cleaning up a little bit inside here. They don't want to enter the garage because they're fearful that it's going to collapse over. Everything over here, they have a 3-year-old who was here when the tornado moved through. You can tell they have a 3-year-old because they have all of the kids' fun stuff over here that's been slammed because this gate ripped open, pushed against this wall. There's a crack now you can see in their block wall here because of all of the force of this being thrown over. If we come over here, I want to point out something that's really interesting. Joe, be careful as you walk through here. There's not a very good path. This gate right here, keep this in mind because I'm going to show you in just a second where this gate came from on the whole other side of the house. So just keep that with us for a second. As we go to the front here of Desiree's home, this was a porch. They had a beautiful porch here. The post was right here. It came in. It's all been lifted off. Inside in the house, let's go inside, Joe. This is where Desiree was as the storm started to move through. We got Desiree actually here joining us right now. First off, you're clearly okay. Thank God for that. Everyone in your family is okay, right?
Yeah, all of us are good.
Tell me what happened when you first started to hear this storm.
So we were all in the kitchen standing like right under the roof, and I seen the leaves going crazy, so I was trying to grab my phone because I've never seen anything like it. And then my fiance Cody was like, back up, and then as soon as he grabbed me, the roof just blew off, and we were, 3 feet from where it blew off.
You had to just been terrified at that moment.
Oh yeah, everything was just flying. It was crazy.
And the 3-year-old was in the bathtub?
Yeah, he was actually taking a bath, so when the electric went out, he started screaming because it's dark, and then he hears us screaming, so he just knew right away something was wrong.
How are you all doing now? I know the Red Cross has been helping out, right?
We're still kind of like processing it. It's like a lot to take in, you know.
Thankfully, though, you guys were able to stay in a hotel last night. You got insurance helping you out, right?
Yeah.
Wow. But everyone's okay physically, right?
Yeah, that's all that really matters at this point, you know.
Wow. A lot to take in. Desiree, thank you so much for talking with us. It's really shocking. As we walk out here, let's take just sort of one more look. This is a part of the roof. It's just right here in the living room. Joe, real quick, I want to exit the house here if we can, because I want to go around to the other side. And we'll try to be a little bit careful as we do this again, because there's just so much sort of debris all over the ground. So I don't want Joe to trip while he's got the camera. Do you see the tarp here on the house? This was actually a whole bunch of volunteers came by yesterday, because at around 6 p.m. it started pouring rain. So all of these homes here, they no longer had roofs, and the water was just getting in. So a whole bunch of volunteers came in and they tarped up the whole street, which was incredible. I wanted to come back over here because I promised you I'd show you where that gate came from. This is where it came from. Underneath this porch on the whole other side of the house, the tornado was able to lift this up underneath this porch and throw it to the other side of the house. The Department of Ed says that GCU has been lying to students for years, but GCU says that they don't believe a single student has complained. The fine was large, the accusation big. The U.S. Department of Education claiming Grand Canyon University lied about how long it takes to get a doctorate and how much it cost. In a sit-down interview with Fox 10, GCU President Brian Mueller reacted to the $37 million fine.
This thing is completely ridiculous and ludicrous.
At issue, disclosures. In a letter, the department says at multiple times GCU posts tables with phrases like total program cost or total program tuition and fees. But the department says 98% of students end up taking longer and paying more than that total. 2% seems like a very low number.
I just showed you the document. It very clearly says this is the cost for the 60 credits. And right above that, in the same font, it says the average student takes X number of additional courses at this cost.
Above the table, GCU now writes an average doctoral student needs an additional 9.9 continuation courses at $2,175 per course. Do the math. That's an extra $21,000 on average, more than the highlighted total. The department says that disclosure, though, was only included in June after GCU was aware of the investigation. Previous versions showed fewer courses and no additional costs listed. Why not advertise, though, the average cost and the average length of time to get the doctorate as opposed to something that only 2% of students can achieve?
We state right there that the average number of courses that you need to take is X at an average cost of X. It's right there. Their disagreement is they say it's in fine print. It's in the same font, and it's right above.
It's not in the table, though, I think is their argument, is it's not in the table.
It's right above the table.
But why include,
it's not hidden somewhere.
Why include the table, though, if that's only for 2% of the students?
Why do any of this stuff when it's not required? We do it because we want to be completely transparent.
Mueller believes they should be commended, not fined, and plans to appeal.
If those things don't go our way, then we'll sue them. But we will fight this all the way to the Supreme Court.
For thousands of miles, the Pacific's waves crash on sandy shores. On a sunny spring morning, tucked behind a jetty and lagoon, you can hear a constant buzz that's making quite a buzz across the Southwest. This is the Carlsbad Desalination Plant. It takes ocean water and makes drinking water, and it's the largest one in the Western Hemisphere. Fox 10 Phoenix took a tour of the facility, learning how it's changed San Diego County. While Arizona faces a water shortfall, the plant creates a waterfall of water wave by wave. Poseidon, the company that runs the plant, says they can make 54 million gallons of drinking water every day. The plant consumes water that flows past the jetties, and then it arrives at this 72-inch pipe. Before they remove the salt, they clean it first through layers of filters.
Anthracite, sand, and gravel.
Michelle Peters says this first step is basically like a Brita filter, ocean-sized.
Simple technology, relatively speaking, but very effective.
After they remove the gunk, they split the water. Half goes to desalination. The other half waits. We'll get to that in a second. Arizona has had its eye on desalination after former Governor Doug Ducey touted its success in many desert climates. The Arizona Water Infrastructure Finance Authority has proposed a $5.5 billion plan to build a desalination plant like this in Rocky Point and pipe the water all the way to Phoenix. In waterfront San Diego, even with this massive plant, only 10% of the county's water is desalinated.
We can't just rely on one option. We need to have our other options in place.
And this option took day after day, sunrise to sunset, for nearly 2 decades before any drinking water was created, according to the County Water Authority.
The permitting and the regulatory requirements here took a long time to get through that process.
Jeremy Crutchfield said everyone was on board, though, the residents and the politicians.
It really is incredible that we have the largest supply of water in the world right in our back door. Being able to access that and turn it into drinking water for our residents and bring that resilience, that drought-proof water supply to our region has been a very important part of our water diversification strategy here in San Diego.
In the sea of pipes and tubes, dials and knobs, the water headed for desal comes here. The reverse osmosis process pressurizes the water at 1,000 psi. It's forced through a tightly wound polymer layer with microscopic holes. At the end of the process, you have this.
Yeah, I mean, it tastes normal. It tastes like normal water.
Clean drinking water. Just like from your tap in Phoenix.
A little bit of magic.
But that magic might be hard to recreate.
In Arizona, you might see this endless supply of salt water on the horizon and think our problems are solved. But finding a way to get this water to your faucet couldn't be more complicated.
Whether a plant is built in San Diego or in Rocky Point, as was proposed by Arizona water officials, it would take years of negotiations and planning, and then hundreds of miles of pipeline would have to be laid. The cost would be high. Plus, Mexican officials would need to be on board, and so far they haven't been.
Is it realistic to think of this plant, a similar one like this in California, having a pipeline to Phoenix?
Having a pipeline that's not in to inland, hundreds of miles is not an easy task by any means. But in terms of evaluating potential options, it has to be on the table in terms of looking at new water supply sources. Again, what that feasibility is for it, it'll require a lot of folks at the table, negotiations, to figure out what the right answer is.
There are plenty of concerns besides the sheer cost of turning waves into faucet water.
If the question is, how do we sustain Arizona's current water use? Desalination absolutely cannot do that.
Natalie Cook is a native Arizonan, now an environmental researcher at Syracuse University and currently living in the Middle East. There, a huge portion of drinking water is thanks to desalination. She studies how they do it out there, and she says it all comes down to power.
They're able to do this because they have free, basically, right? Because they're all government-controlled, government-owned facilities, free energy and cheap to do that. The United States doesn't have access to that.
Remember how half of the water the Carlsbad plant takes in was set aside? Well, it's because of power. Poseidon says they take that remaining brine from the desalinated water that's still extremely pressurized, and they force it into the unpressurized stored salt water. That pressure transfer creates 46% of the power for the plant. Even at that, it still requires massive energy. Natalie isn't convinced it's sustainable on a larger scale.
If you desalinate enough seawater, if you do enough, you build enough technology, sure, you can engineer water solutions to lots of things, but that doesn't mean that Arizona and the state and the country even has the resources to build these crazy water infrastructures that would keep Arizona going at the rate that it is.
Do you think Arizona could have some percentage of desal water?
There's always a way. Engineers can do a lot of things. So yeah, I think it's something that could be evaluated for inland areas.
They all agree desal isn't the only answer, even in oceanfront San Diego. But many water officials in the Southwest continue to look at following San Diego's sandy footsteps.
The San Diego story can really help others who are going through a water supply challenge. Really for us, it was all tools in the toolbox. It wasn't just a silver bullet.
Steve Nielsen, Fox 10 News.